Welcome to Hidden Treasures. I'm your guide, Beaudacious Jackson. Please join me as we go on an adventure and seek out the world's many hidden treasures. Our first hidden treasure of the day is one of the world's most amazing natural formations. Welcome to Mercer Caverns. Mercer Caverns was discovered September 1st, 1885 by Walter J. Mercer. Soon after his discovery, Mr. Mercer started giving tours to the public. For our own personal tour, I'd like to welcome my good buddy, Bernard Ingram.
Thank you, Beau. Welcome to Mercer Caverns. My name is Bernard Ingram, and I'll be your guide today. Mercer Caverns is a living limestone cavern. We're going to see a lot of different formations today, and I think you'll like them a lot. Hey, come on and join us. Okay, this is the Gothic chamber, the largest room that we'll go through today. It's about 200 feet long, about 50 feet wide, and about 60 feet deep at the deepest point. This is, like I said, is a living limestone cavern, and it's formed out of limestone. It doesn't look like limestone here because it's coated with a mineral called calcite. Calcite's a mineral that comes from the limestone. This nice shear wall, we call this the master joint wall. We're going to follow this wall down 16 stories. Now, when this cave started forming, this nice shear wall, it wasn't vertical, it was horizontal. But in the forming of the mountains in this area, the rippling and buckling of the plates, it starts pushing this wall up into this position. When this wall starts moving up, it fractures the rock. And when that rock was fractured, there was a creek nearby. The water from that creek started working its way down through those fractures. Over a long period of time, the water dissolved away a lot of the limestone, pretty much carving out the cavern. As time went by, the creek got lower until it was below the level of the cavern. All of the water drained out. When the water drained out, there was a lot of loose rock that collapsed. After the rock collapsed, the only water we got or get is from the rains. As the rainwater works its way through the rock, it breaks down the rock, picks up some minerals, the largest mineral being the calcite. It brings it into the cave. Most of the time, the water will evaporate on the ceiling, leaving the minerals there which form the stalactites, and sometimes it drips away, hits the ground, and forms stalagmites. Nice easy way to remember that, stalactites cling tight to the ceiling. Stalagmites, if you're not careful, you might trip over them. Okay, if you like, we can move on to the next stop. Okay, here we are. We're still in the Gothic chamber, just a little lower. We're here with the cave twins. We call them the cave twins. Some people call them the touching twins. They call them the touching twins because we're allowed to touch these formations. We don't allow touching because the oil from your skin transfers to the formation, pretty much coats it, stops it from forming. When the minerals drip on it, they don't stick, they just bead up and roll off. So we don't allow touching of the formations or the walls or anything in here. So we always let people touch this formation. Walter Mercer allowed his visitors to touch them. And it kind of gives you a feel, give you an idea of how the formations feel. And they're nice and smooth from a lot of wear and tear, a lot of touching and rubbing. So as you come by, you can give these a touch if you like. Up here behind me, we have what we call a water solution hole. We're going to see a few of these as we go through. This is the largest one. They call it the Fairies Grotto. And quite a few stalactites and stalagmites in there. You might want to take a look in there as you pass. We can move on down to another section. Okay, this is the largest formation here at the cavern. This is called a column. And a column forms when the stalactite comes down and meets the stalagmite, then it continues to form. This formation is estimated to be about 1 million years old. Different caves have different rates of growth. Depends on the amount of mineral in the rock and the amount of water that you get. The rate of growth here at this cave is about 500 to 700 years a square inch. So we have a lot of square inches here. Okay, to the left here we have, well, my left, we have the largest stalagmite that we have here. It's called the beehive. A lot of people think it looks like a beehive. It's about 7 feet tall. They estimate this to being about 200,000 years old. Now, you may notice there's a hole in it. Mercer drilled holes in this and some of the walls to hold torches. He did all of his tours by torch and candlelight. Well, they used the torches for a while. Soon he stopped that. And like I said, it's about 200,000 years old. It's about 7 feet tall. It goes down a little ways there. To my right over here, we have a large set of draperies. Now, draperies are formed with the stalactites. You have the minerals coming straight down to give you a straight formation. But when the water's running at an angle on the ceiling, as it runs down, it deposits the minerals there, giving you a drapery. These are the largest draperies here. This particular set of draperies they call the angel wings. And they estimate these to being about 50,000 years old. And we'll be moving down into the next section that we call the coral room.
One of the most recent additions to Mercer Caverns have never been photographed or seen by many people at all. In the early 1900s, some of the pioneer cave dwellers left behind their marks, with some of their signatures dating from 1912 and 1916. This must have been a very daunting and difficult task, to say the least, considering these signatures reside 40 feet up on the side of the wall. How am I ever going to get my paw prints up there?
We call this room the coral room. We call it the coral room for the formations over here. It kind of has a coral look, or some people call it popcorn effect. When the calcite forms on the wall, there's a chemical reaction between the rock and the calcite, which builds up carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide builds up pressure, and that pressure forces the minerals out through little pinholes into this formation, giving you that coral effect. And behind me here, we have what we call the organ loft. If you look underneath here, you'll see that it's just a big boulder with the minerals covering it. So all of the minerals from up near the angel wings and the formations up in there have covered all of these boulders. Hey, this formation, this is a rare formation called aragonite phosphorese. Some people call it aragonite, some people call it aragonite. Different people say different things about the formation of it. Some people say that heat had something to do with forming it. Some say that it had to form underwater. A lot of people talk about different chemical reactions with the different minerals and things. It's a very beautiful formation. In 1900, Walter Mercer won an award for it at the 1900 Paris World's Fair. He won the grand prize for this formation. And they didn't actually take a piece from this. They found a small boulder that had a large collection on it. Now at this point, we're at the bottom, as far down as the tour goes. The cave continues on for another 40 or 50 feet. From here, we'll be going up into the next room, where we'll be pointing out some cave coral and some of the water action. Okay, earlier we were talking about how the water carved out the cave. Here's a place where you can see how the water carved out this area. You can see the little dents and scoops, and that's from the rushing water. The water was rushing down through this area, kind of carved it out. Now you'll see these little dents and scoops throughout the cave. It's just more of them here. I like to point them out in this area. As you're walking through the cave, if you look around, you'll see the little dents and scoops everywhere, and it's from that rushing water. That water was rushing through here before it drained out. Over here we have some of the lighting Mercer tried. To the right, we have a lantern. And in his journal, he said the lantern light wasn't quite bright enough to explore caves. And he also tried torches. And torches just a stick with cloth wrapped around it. They would dip it in kerosene, light it up. Gave off plenty of light, but it also gave off a lot of smoke and soot. Smoke and soot was probably damaging the cave and everyone in here. So he stopped that. What he really started using was a candle board. A little board with a candle on it, and it worked pretty good. And as you can see, it has a little handle here. Sometimes they carried it in their mouth when they were on the ladders and the ropes. So that could be a little dangerous, climbing on a rope or a ladder with this in your mouth. So we'll be moving up into the area. Well, actually, there's a drapery at the top of the stairs here we'd like to look at. Drapery Mrs. Mercer called a bridal veil. Looks a little different than the other draperies because it's almost pure calcite. Okay, this area, Mr. Mercer called Simon's Thumb. His wife, Mrs. Mercer, called it the cathedral ceiling. It took Mercer with his tours an hour and a half to get to this point. When they got to this point, there was no exit on this side of the cavern. So they would have to return the way that they came. It took them 3.5 hours to get out on the ropes and ladders. After being here a while, Mercer decided that he would try to open this side up to make an exit. Then that way he would be able to make the total loop with his tour. And in surveying the area above up here, the rope that he was using either broke or came loose, and he fell about 40 feet. Pretty seriously injured. He said with neck and back injuries. And in those days, they didn't know about immobilizing people with neck and back injuries. They pretty much tied a rope around him and drug him out. Because of his injuries, he never came in the cave again. They say he was bedridden until he died about 12 years later. And that was the last stop on the tour. Thanks for joining us today at Mercer Caverns. I've had fun, and I think Beau's had fun. But I think Beau is off for more adventures at this time.
Nice toss, Bernard. Thanks for the great tour of Mercer Caverns today. Mercer Caverns truly is a hidden treasure. Well, I'd like to introduce everyone to my brother Tucker. This is something we call splash and roll. Boy, that sure was fun. I love my brother Tucker. Hey, come with me. Check this out. You might want to hold on to something. This could be very scary. This is what we call a Rocky Hill Pumpkin Patch. This is what we did last Halloween. Well, that's our show for the day. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it for you. I'm Beaudacious Jackson. I hope to see you out on the trail as we discover hidden treasures.